Hi, this is Matt with Whitbeck Construction. Here today to talk about ERVs, or energy recovery ventilators. We know a little bit about energy recovery ventilating because we're building tighter and tighter houses right now. As we insulate these houses tighter and using acoustic sealants, things like that, better windows, we're really suppressing the house from having a lot of fresh, natural air. Which, if you have human beings living in the house, which you probably do, you want fresh air to come into your home. Today we're going to talk about a couple different styles of ERVs. And this particular one we're going to show first is a retrofit and remodel. So we've added this ERV after, and it is a pretty simple unit. Plugs in very similar to how a bathroom fan is going to be installed. We vent it outside of the house. We have an intake line coming in and an exhaust line going out. So the idea with the ERV is that we're recouping fresh air, we're mixing it with the energy that we've already paid for, so the heated or cooled air within the house, and then putting that air into the house so that it's at a comfortable temperature as it reacclimates. That allows the occupants to be able to have the carbon dioxide that they're exhaling to be exhausted from the home, and fresh air to be able to come in, making the house smell fresher and the inhabitants have fresher air to breathe. So we're going to pull this unit apart real quick and show you how easy this is to be able to take off and clean and see what the core looks like. This is a Panasonic unit that's in the FV family. Very easy to be able to deal with, and you can see these tabs, how this pulls down from the ceiling very easily. Exposed underneath here, we'll see that it's got a small fan working inside here, a turbine, and the core that sits right here that we're going to pull out. Pretty simple. This is really where all the magic is happening. So our air is mixing through this core, and it's allowing this core to be able to heat up or cool based on what kind of temperature we have in the house. Now, this is an important thing to recognize the difference between an ERV and an HRV. So an ERV is an energy recovery ventilator. It'll work both in the summer and in the winter, right? So when we're heating or cooling, an HRV traditionally is only going to work in the winter when we're putting heat into the house. It's a heat recovery ventilator, not to be confused because it wouldn't be used in air conditioning time. ERVs typically allow moisture recovery also, so they'll have dehumidification properties, which is beneficial if we're doing cooling. This core, as the air passes through it, will allow this core to be able to heat up or cool down based on the indoor air temperature. While it pulls in air from outside, it remixes, balances that, and pushes the fresh air through this core and into the house. So this is how easy this is to be able to take out. When we remove this core, not to be washed, but just vacuumed off and be able to keep this clean. There's also a pre-filter inside here that we can see. And again, very easy to remove, only takes a second, but we can see that the owners have been keeping this one pretty clean. We just want to vacuum this off every couple months, keep the dust and debris similar to a lint trap in our dryer, and make sure that all the air that's going to pass through here is going to pass through with limited resistance on the motor. Alright, we're back. So we have a slightly different unit that we're going to look at, made by General Air. So this unit plugs into a forced hot air system, and we can see that it's using all the trunk work and the duct work off of a liquid propane fed forced hot air system. Right here we can see the forced hot air unit set up with air conditioning capabilities, and we can see all of the housings, filter systems, and our return duct right here. We can notice that we have two lines coming into the return duct. So what this is allowing the ERV to be able to do is take the return air that is being made up as it circulates through the house and bypass it with already heated or cooled air, robbing it from the return duct to pass through our heat exchange inside the unit. What this is now doing is allowing the fresh air to be able to come in, pass through the core and back into the return ducts, as well as every 20 to 40 minutes this will return and work the other way. It'll cycle stale air back out while the furnace is off and pull some of the stale carbon dioxide and bad air out of the home, similar to how a bathroom fan is going to work. So this is working at several times a day per hour that this cycles on and off. It also has a override and a switch that is able to sense if the house is in greater demand from exhausting fans like the hood over top of our range, causing demand for a loss of air pressure in the house. So we're back. This is a slightly different unit, almost the exact same one we just looked at, that was attaching to the forced hot air system in the last home that we viewed. This particular house has an air source heat pump, so what's commonly referred to as ductless mini splits as the heat system. Anytime that we have a ductless system, a hydronic system in a house, we're going to need to do a standalone system. So similar to the first one that we saw that was plugged into the ceiling like a bath fan installation, or something like this that allows some simple ductwork to be able to run through the house during new construction and vent it out into high occupancy locations. So we like to put these in near the kitchens, in the living rooms, in the bedrooms especially, because that's where we're spending most of our time sleeping in the evening, really with the necessity of breathing in a lot of fresh air. We can see that this unit's internal core is very similar to the last unit we looked at. Almost the same thing. We have the air mixing in here on the intake and exhaust being met at the internal core to be able to balance out the energy and temperature that we've already paid for to be reached at inside the house. This unit also has, similar to the last one, override switches. This one, because it doesn't have its own standalone system, has a line coming out of the bottom to be able to go to a small pump to make sure that any of the condensation and moisture that builds up inside this unit is going to be released, brought down to a pump, and then sent back up. In this particular situation, we've sent it into the laundry room, which backs up to this wall, and we get rid of all of our condensation and moisture that way. So we're here with Jason, who's the homeowner here, and a lot of what happened with picking out this system and being able to make the system work properly for his family had to do with the size of his family and the occupancy. So we're going to talk to Jason a little bit about the size of his family and why he picked out a unit like this. So Jason, when you decided that you were going to put an ERV in your house, what was the biggest deciding factor?
Well, the fact that we had a chance to seal up the house and be energy efficient. Once we sealed up the house, we wanted to make sure we were bringing fresh air in.
Very good. So as we sealed the house up to make sure that we were gathering and gaining all of the paid for energy, whether it was heating or cool, we realized that the house wasn't really moving a lot of fresh air through gaps and cracks like an old house. So you needed to be able to bring some fresh air in and get the old stale air out. And the size of your unit, did that have anything to do with the size of your family?
Exactly. Well, that was actually one thing that shocked me right away. Was they told us how much air a person breathes per minute. So with a family of 7, we were breathing 70 to 100 CFM, and that was how we sized our unit. Basically, how much air we breathe, we needed to bring it in and exchange it. So
very good. So in consideration and worry about our family and their health and the prolonging of making sure that a developing family with having 5 kids all under the age of 8, we're really worried about how much fresh air while these kids are sleeping at night to make sure that we are staying healthy, that we're breathing good fresh air, and that those evenings where we're 8, 9, 10 hours in our bedroom, that we're able to get a good infusion of fresh air to make sure that that development of all of the building parts in the brain is really at peak production while we're sleeping at night. So we made sure that we put these pucks in the bedrooms right next to where everybody's sleeping, as well as in these communal areas. And while doing that, do you feel like the house remains very fresh, or do you think you feel you need to use indoor air fresheners like Lysol sprays or anything like that?
no, we got a lot of people that come in. They feel that it feels fresher. You know, you have that fresh air coming in, and it feels different. You know, I know when we talked about the original design, what we used was actually the emergency rooms and operating rooms. How they ventilate air in operating rooms was kind of how we did it up here, and I sort of said some stories about the place I was living and the locations of those diffusers, and with that information, we kind of decided where to put them, not only in spots where people were living, but the elevation of them and the location in that specific room and distance apart. So there was
Very
a
good.
little bit of design there.
So, having that many kids in the house, are any of the kids still in diapers?
Well, they're all in diapers at night. One's in diapers permanently, so they're all actually all. I just had a birthday the other day, but we have 5 kids, 7 and under. So
7 and under. So, with that, there's a lot of, well, a high chance to have a lot of smells in the house, making sure that we have, everybody's not necessarily using a restroom, getting rid of that human waste. So, do you feel like the purchase of that unit has benefited your family for the fresh air and the smells alone, not just being able to say we have healthy air, but not having to spray chemicals into the air to mask odors that happen?
oh, it's definitely a lot different. The apartment we were living in, when I'd come home from work, I'd take the trash out because we have dirty diapers in it or something. Now, we just got back from vacation, and usually when you leave on vacation and you're gone for 2 or 3 weeks, you come back and you can smell how other people smell your house, and came in, it's fresh, so that's what
great.
we enjoy that.
What would you say the cost increase while we added this fresh air recovery system into the new home construction? And if I recollect, it was a really minor increase as an upcharge, and I think maybe we threw $1,500 at it in the cost of a brand new home build. Would you say that was a good investment, or you regretted it all, or it was one of the best investments to be able to put into the house?
No, well, we have no ducting system, so we had to we maximized all the square footage that we had, so we had to kind of design the ERV before we even started, and that made it cost effective too, knowing that we were going to put it in, and being able to design and frame and just know that we were having it A to Z, minimize the installation costs. So it's really about buying the equipment, and it's pretty simple to install. So best investment we've made. The kids have been coughing less since we've lived here, and my wife says we turned it off a couple weeks ago. We turned it off for a couple hours, and I forgot to turn it back on. And for 2 days, it was just dramatically dustier in the house, So my wife noticed it right away cleaning.
So that's great information. So thank you, Jason. Best investment he made in the purchase of his new home. Fresh air, no sprays, no chemicals, no need to get rid of this bad odor. A mechanical system that's helping recoup the energy we already paid for. Benefits are off the chart. Really little to no cons. I can't think of any. The homeowner can't think of any. So we give this 2 thumbs up.